I don't either. I guess I did.
See if it's working. Facebook. Where is it? Yeah, I shared it on my page too. There's this. There it is. Share. Wait, I want this to go now. Go away. Okay, good. How you guys doing? Ready? Okay. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, now and forever. Well, I am disappointed to see that there are still so many of you here. I haven't depressed you enough to make you leave. We'll see if today does it. We have 2 more weeks after this to finish Ecclesiastes. And then, like I said, I'll be in Michigan for like the 2 Tuesdays after that. And then after that is like the ordination of a deacon, so I'm not going to be doing Bible study. So basically it'll be sort of on hiatus until January, and then we'll figure out what happens. Good? All right. So it says chapter 10, but I'm going to actually start a little bit before because I ended not quite at the end of chapter 9 because I think the content of at the end of chapter 9 goes with chapter 10. So we'll start there. Chapter 9. Let's start with verse 13 or so. Wisdom too I have seen under the sun. Should I close the door?
No, you're fine.
No, because your people say that they can hear me. There's like another Bible study down the hall. We're like competing. Are you guys coming to mine? Uh-oh. Come on in. All right. You can leave it open. It's fine. Wisdom too I have seen under the sun, and it is great in my eyes. So a rare compliment from Koheleth to anything. Wisdom is great. And then this random story. So here, let's read the story. There was a little town, and few people within it, and a great king came against it, and went around it, and built against it great siege works. A great king came against this little town, built a siege work around it. I guess that's a work of sieging. So some kind of like attacks of some kind. Okay. And there was found within it a poor wise man, and that person saved the town through his wisdom. But no one recalled that poor man. Okay, funny story. So this is a big town. This evil king comes to take it over, and some poor guy who just happens to be smart figured out how to defeat this king. So that's the nice part of the story. And then the bad part is, and then everyone forgot about him. Okay? I said, better wisdom than might, but the poor man's wisdom is scorned and his words are unheard. So this introduces a really interesting theme here that we've kind of touched upon a little bit in the weeks that passed, but wisdom alone might help in some rare circumstances, but not usually. Wisdom needs something else. Now, this sort of depends on how we interpret this story. The story could have sort of 2 meanings. What does it mean that person saved the town through his wisdom, but no one recalled that poor man? There's apparently a linguistic issue, and Robert Alter's giving this in one of the footnotes. There's a linguistic issue that the same verb could be a conditional. So it could also be translated, that poor wise man would have saved the town, but nobody listened to him. Okay. So the same exact sentence has these sort of 2 interpretations. Now, depending on how we read this, the meaning sort of slightly changes, but I think it's the same idea. What is it to be wise alone? Why is it important that it's a poor man? A poor man is powerless. So even though he's wise, let me make it about you. Even though you might be wise, which maybe you are, maybe not, if you don't have something else, it's very unlikely that people are going to listen to you. Now, what could that something else be? Well, it could be money. It could be sort of prestige, or it could be power. In other words, just being smart is not enough to get people to not just listen to you for your good, listen to you for their own good. This poor man could have saved the entire town, but because all he had was wisdom, that wasn't enough to get him heard. So the theme that's introduced here is something that you see a lot in philosophical conversations. In Plato's dialogues, for example, it's kind of a big deal, and it's this sort of weird thing to have a philosopher king. And Socrates in the Republic, he makes it this kind of absurd thing. It's really unlikely for there to be a philosopher who takes charge. Now, this is unlikely for a lot of different reasons, and the reasons the Republic are a little bit different than what's going on here. But the sort of tension that Koheleth is noticing is, in order to become king, you have to be strong as well, in some other way than wisdom. Okay. Now, so the sort of equation we end up having is wisdom plus strength is greater than just wisdom. And wisdom alone, it's not that it's nothing, but it's not as much as you would think it is. Now, why is that? Well, the story kind of gives us a hint as to why that might be. It's not because wisdom itself there's something wrong with it, or there's something lacking in it. It's because there's something lacking in human society. Because human beings are the way that they are, as much as we would say, I respect wisdom, and if somebody's wise, I'll listen to them no matter who they are, even if they're poor, even if they're powerless, BS, then that goes to all of us. All of us are fooled by prestige. All of us are impressed by money more than we should be. All of us are sort of enamored by power in a way that is kind of irrelevant. And we sort of buy into this stuff. And so, I don't know how to kind of, the sort of robes of the wise man are impressive even though they shouldn't be. You know? When like the judge walks into the court and he's wearing the fancy robes, there's something about that that's sort of, oh, there must be something wise about this guy, even though he could be a total moron just wearing those clothes. You know? Now, it might not be the clothes, it might be the degree. People have doctorates that really don't know anything at all. I'm one of them. Okay? So, and yet, I got my PhD and blah, 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 and I can say all this stuff and I can throw names around all this and that, and it'll be impressive, and I can do all of that all day long, and I could know absolutely nothing, and I could have zero wisdom, because it's possible to get that stuff without any wisdom. It really is. Okay? And that's prestige, and that's the stuff that's associated with education. Power, you definitely can have power and be a dummy. Money, you could be the richest person in the world and be a moron. And we like to pretend, oh no, you know, these millionaires, these billionaires, they really worked hard, they're really clever, and no, a lot of them just like got a bunch of money from their dad. And then just like the investments worked out well. It really isn't. I don't think there's any correlation between wealth and intelligence at all, much less wisdom, which is not the same as intelligence. So when it comes to education, that's not really correlated with wisdom. When it comes to power, how do you get power? Money, like, is just kind of a joke. How do you get power? You get power most of the time by lying to people. That's how politicians do it. What's wise about that? Not much. So you guys see how unlikely it is that somebody who really is wise and knows what they're doing and could give good advice and could lead a city well, you see how unlikely it is that that person would actually be in charge of anything. Okay? That's going to be the theme of chapter 10, which is introduced here in chapter 9. Okay. The words of the wise, I'm on verse 17. The words of the wise, gently said, are heard more than the shout of the ruler among fools. Again, I think we could translate this should be instead of are. The words of the wise, gently said, should be heard more than the shout of the ruler among fools. Should be. but I don't think they are. Okay, are to be heard. Now, like, examine yourself. You never know. Maybe the dudes, I don't know, that you ran into at work that doesn't seem to like have much going. Maybe that guy really does have a lot more wisdom than you think. Do you give him a chance? I don't know. You know, better wisdom than weapons. Okay, if those are the two choices, better wisdom than weapons. Yet, a single offender destroys a lot of good, and this is going to be another thing that that's going to be discussed more in chapter 10. Better wisdom than weapons. Yet, if you're a ruler, and this coming chapter is going to be about rulership. If you're in charge, you can't really do it without some weapons. And I don't mean necessarily physical weapons, but if a kindergarten teacher had no ability at all to discipline the children, forget about physical stuff. I know that we haven't done that in decades. Okay, I'm not talking about like you get to slap them. Something. I actually think that's very bad. But if you couldn't, like, you know, you have to, like, if there was no, not just detention, but just like even within the classroom, if a kid's being disruptive, if you weren't allowed to send them to the principal's office even, okay, then forget about leading the class. There has to be a little bit of sort of power, quote unquote, if you're going to keep order. Why? Because a single offender destroys much good. There's, I don't know how many of you are there in here, like 25 of you right now in here. All it takes is one of you just doing this. And I lost all of you. None of you are going to be able to pay attention because there's just one jackass doing this the whole time, right? So that single offender, and what's the much good? Let's say I've got some wisdom, or Koroleth has wisdom to share with us. I could be sharing it with all of you, and all it takes is just that one dude doing this, or like smacking his lips. I took this class. Gosh, I remember this way too well. This is how much it bothered me. This was easy 20 years ago, at least 20 years ago. I'm in seminary, and there was a dude that would sit, and it was liturgy class, and there was this nun teaching it, and she was pretty boring already. And she's teaching this stuff, and then there's this dude who would go to the cafeteria before class, fill up a cup of ice, and chew on ice the entire class. Every damn class, and I wanted to kill him. And so, like, she's already boring, and then this guy's distracting as hell the whole time, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So that one guy, and we all got distracted by it. And whatever good we could have gained was just gone because of that. That's within a classroom. What can one person do, one offender, destroy in a family? You guys, every family has, like, a person that can do a lot of it. Maybe not every nuclear family, but like extended family, you get to cousins and second cousins. Really, one person, at Thanksgiving who just gets a little too drunk kind of ruins Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. A sort of selfish sort of streak in one person in a family can easily cause a divorce. The guy that thinks he can get away with cheating or whatever. At some point, it's no longer about the family and it's about me and what I want. That can really destroy a family. And when a family is destroyed, it's not just that family that's hurt. The whole community could be hurt by that. You know what I mean? That's just one person. What about in a city? One drunk driver. How much damage can one drunk driver do? One offender. And so what does that have to do with what's going on? Well, if you're going to be leading a community, there's always going to be that one person. And if you don't have a way to sort of, protect the others from that one person, you're not going to be able to lead a community. The community is just not going to be able to be healthy and happy. Whether it's imprisonment or whatever, some kind of protecting the other, or therapy or something like that. But let's say the guy doesn't want to go to therapy. Well, you got to be able to force him. You have to go to whatever these meetings. At the very least, you're on probation. Whatever it is, there has to be some force behind it. It can't just be, this is the right thing and everybody knows it's the right thing. So what? If that one person was able to listen to logic, you wouldn't even need leadership. You know what I mean? You wouldn't even need a government at all. Okay. So far, so good? All right. Let's get into chapter 10. We get some weird images here. You get the sense sometimes when there's these weird proverbs that these were sort of sayings at the time, and we kind of lost the meaning, and we kind of have to guess at what it means, in retrospect now. So, a dead fly makes the perfumer's oil vessel stink. A dead fly makes the perfumer's oil vessel stink. Heavier than weighty wisdom is a bit of folly. Okay, that makes sense. It's the same thing. It's the drunk driver. It could be the best city in the world. One fly, one little drunk driver can make the whole thing a mess. One annoying person at the party can kind of ruin it for everybody. And even like a beautiful perfumed oil, it can be really spoiled just by a little rotten thing that's put into it. Heavier than weighty wisdom is a little bit of folly. This I've really noticed. And I've noticed this like historically, and I've noticed it even in my short number of years in this world. It's very, very hard to build something. A house or a shed or an institution or like a kind of culture. It's very hard to actually build something positive. It's really easy to destroy it. Think about a painting. You ever see how much work goes into a good painting? Oh my gosh, it takes months to really do. And yet, somebody can spend months and months doing a painting, and all it just takes is just one asshole with a Sharpie that should just like ruin it in seconds. You see that? So heavier than weighty wisdom is a little bit of folly. A little bit of a fool can destroy a lot of wisdom. Okay? A wise man's mind. Here's another kind of parable that whatever. A wise man's mind is at his right and the fool's mind at his left. Even when the fool walks on the road, his mind is absent, and it says to all, he is a fool. So the way he's describing the fool is the guy who's kind of walking down the road not paying attention. Which kind of bothers me because I do that all the time. You shouldn't text and drive, though.
Do you?
No. Maybe sometimes. Only if it's really important.
Oh.
If the ruler's mood... Okay, now he's going into some advice. If the ruler's mood goes against you, do not leave your place, for calmness puts great offenses to rest. This is, again, just sort of very funny practical advice. If your boss, or if somebody who's in charge of you, is mad at you, don't move. And don't say anything. Don't blubber and apologize. Just let him get it out of his system, and then reply as calmly as you can. I've worked with many bishops. This is effective. Okay. There is an evil I have seen under the sun, a true error that comes forth from the person in power. So now we're back to the ruler. Folly is set on great heights, and the rich dwell down below. I'm going to sort of tweak the rich part. I don't think the rich thing makes much difference, but I have seen slaves on horses and noblemen walking like slaves on the ground. What's the thing he's really kind of pointing at here? In the political order at least, I don't want to kind of go farther than that, but at least in the political order, we do not have a meritocracy or an aristocracy, if you want to sort of use a wider word. What's a meritocracy? People are in the positions that they deserve to be in. What does aristocracy mean? The word is sort of used in a kind of different sense right now, but the idea of aristocracy is the person who's best at the job is doing that job, whatever that job might be. And he's saying this evil that he has seen under the sun, a true error that comes forth from the person in power, the guy in charge puts his relatives in positions instead of the person who can actually do that job. Relatives is one example. Or the guy who flatters him. Maybe this person is a lot better at this job, but the other one is a lot better at butt kissing. And the butt kisser gets the job instead of the person who's actually good at it. You're all starting to nod and notice that? Okay? So the result is people who are just absolutely incompetent climb the ladder, and people who are really smart and clever and wise and good at what they do are stuck where they are. Or even worse, maybe they even get fired because the other ones are jealous of them and they know that they're sort of threatened by how competent they are. You see that? He who digs a pit will fall in it, and he who breaches a wall, a snake will bite him. He who moves stones will be hurt by them, and he who splits wood is endangered by it. So it's kind of like when you do a really good job, it might kind of come back to bite you. Now, this is exactly connected to what I was saying about the end of chapter 9. Getting to be in charge is not the same thing as knowing how to rule. Knowing how to market or to sort of sell your I was going to say sell yourself, and it kind of is that. But like to have a brand, you know how people have a brand? You know? Branding, is that a word? Branding? Getting people to like you, getting people to vote for you. None of those skills, those are all skills, and they take practice and they take learning, and they take natural talent sometimes. None of them has anything to do with actual leadership of a community. Being good at leading others has nothing to do. It is a totally independent skill from getting them to like you. In fact, most of the time they're opposites, because to lead them, sometimes you have to do things they don't like, even though it's what's best for them. But who is it that gets elected? The people that tell you what you want to hear. Now, is it possible to learn both skills of how to get people to like you and how to lead people, in the right direction, or be a good leader in general? Is it possible? Yeah. It's really hard. Because both of them independently, each one by itself, is a really hard thing. To learn both, good luck. All right? This is a tension that really is it's the subject of book 6 of Plato's Republic. It's a very important theme in that book. But he's bringing it up here, that the people who don't deserve it get positions that are going to affect others. Okay? If the iron is dull and he has not honed its edge, he will exert great effort. And the advantage of skill is wisdom. If a snake bites with no snake charm, there is no advantage for the expert of incantations. Some of this stuff I don't really want to work through. It's just kind of weird. The snake thing, I'm not sure what sense to make of that. The iron is dull. Let's talk about the iron is dull. I agree with what Robert Alter says here. You have to sort of get ready before you do a thing. So if you have a tool, Monica's there, she's a wood carver. If you don't sharpen your knives ahead of time, it's going to suck. And you're going to have a much worse time. Like, spend the time to sharpen your knife or your axe or whatever. And then once it's sharpened, you didn't waste your time. Your wood chopping or your wood carving is going to go a lot better if you spend a little bit, and it's going to go a lot faster if you waste a little bit of time at first getting the tool sharp. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, in your day-to-day life, get yourself ready. Spend some time, kind of work on yourself. Get good at the stuff that you want to do. It's not going to be a waste of time. Here's one application of this that I think is real and is important. Why is everybody in a rush to finish college? Everybody's, I got to do this and I got to finish by the time I'm 22. I got to finish my bachelor's degree by the time I'm 22. So why? So what? Who are you racing against? You know what I mean? Where's the timer that your time is gonna run out? College is a great time of life. Enjoy it. Learn as much as you can. I'm not saying like spend 9 years on a bachelor's degree. But there's so much pressure. You have to graduate when you're, graduate high school when you're 18, graduate college when you're 22. Then if you get a master's, you have to be done by 24 or 25. Then you have to be married by 26. If not, like it's a sin. Or the world is going to end. And then you have to start. Why? Get yourself ready. Prepare yourself. Then when you actually get to life, you'll be chopping through things like nobody's business. Spend that time on yourself. Okay? Okay, where was I? Okay, now we're going to talk about words. Verse 12. The words of a wise man's mouth bring favor, and the lips of a fool bring him ruin. So now what is he doing? He's kind of shifting a little bit, and he's including, this is not exactly something that Plato does, but he's including within wisdom the ability to speak well. I guess that's right. So the words of a wise man's mouth bring favor. So if you're wise, and you're wise in the way that you speak, you will be good at getting people to accept what you say and even maybe like you. It's not that you should care only about that, but part of wisdom is what's called rhetoric, which is the ability to persuade people. Okay? And the lips of a fool bring him ruin. So now what are the lips of the fool? The first of the words of his mouth are folly, and the last of them evil revelry. And the fool speaks many words. That's one of my favorite lines in Ecclesiastes so far. If you talk too much, you're dumb. The fool speaks many words. And the first words you say are folly, and the last ones are evil revelry. So these are sort of things that would be included in what a dummy talks about. A dummy talks about dumb stuff. But he also talks about evil revelry. What is evil revelry? It's hard to say, evil revelry. Evil revelry. When you're bragging about bad stuff that you did. You guys know that kind of character? You know? I don't want to go into detail, but that's the stuff a fool talks about. Oh, I can name some politicians right now. I don't want to do that. You know, people that brag about what they can grab and whatnot. Man knows not what will be and what will be after him. Who can tell him? Man knows not what will be and what will be after him. Who can tell him? So now he's going back to another thing. You don't know the future. I don't know where this is coming from exactly. The toil of a fool wears him out so that he knows not how to go to the city. Again, it's a little bit thick, but here's what I think this means. Another thing that a foolish person does is try to tell the future. Another thing a foolish person does is work so hard that you don't even know how to go and like have company with people that care about you anymore. You don't even know how to go to the city anymore. All you know how to do is work. That's foolish. A lot of this is kind of repetition from before. Then he goes back to rulership. Woe to you, land, whose king is a lackey, and your princes dine in the morning. Let's try to figure this out. Woe to you, land whose king is you know what a lackey is? Like a servant. However, I'm going to confuse you guys on purpose to see if you can work through this. Okay? Didn't Jesus say that he who is greatest among you should be your servant? Is this contradicting Jesus, or is there a way in which both of these can be true? Shouldn't the leader be a servant like Jesus said? Or is it woe to you, land whose king is a lackey? You guys see there's kind of a contradiction there. Who wants to try to make sense of it? We'll go. One brave person. Go ahead.
Serving God, like serving other things.
Okay. What else might you serve?
Like serving power, serving idols, serving yourself.
Okay. That's a possibility. Who else has an idea? Yeah.
My understanding of lackey means it's a person that just holds the key and doesn't do anything else.
No, I think lackey has a little broader meaning. Maybe the origin of the word is that. What do we have another translation? What does yours say? What is it? Child.
Mine says
Because like they say a lackey.
Youth.
yeah.
Oh, here. Okay. The Hebrew na'ar. Here's his footnote. The Hebrew na'ar means lad or youth, but also by extension a servant. Okay, so that's kind of his way to interpret this. Or anyone in a subordinate position. I mean, that's true. Also, there's a word in Greek that means the same thing. Huios, I think, means both boy and servant. So there's
The lackey kids when they come.
that's latchkey.
Oh,
That's a different word.
Okay.
Nice try. Okay.
Could you be just too young not to be wise?
No, I think he's right that this has to do with being a servant. Here's the way I would make sense of it. It's sort of similar to what you were saying. I would say it in this way. In order to rule, at least to some degree, you have to be free. Now, what does free mean? You have to be free of the influence of others. And I think to be a lackey doesn't mean I'm a servant of the people. That's what Jesus exactly wants of leaders, is to be a servant of your brethren. But to be a servant of your brethren is not the same as to be subordinate to somebody who's bribing you. Do you see the difference? So imagine like in a, I don't know, in a school or in a city or something like that, in the Senate, right? Senators are supposed to be serving the people that elected them. However, all of them, I think all of them, are millionaires a couple of years into it. They didn't get that money from their salary. We know how much they make. It's not enough to make millions in a couple of years. Where they get that from? It's this thing called lobbyists. And lobbyists are people who bribe politicians to make laws that are good for the companies that they work for. And so they make the laws that are good for the people that bribe them, whether or not they're good for us, who are the people that they actually work for. Woe to you, land whose king is a lackey, or whose senators are servants, not of the people, but of bribes and of money, or of something else, whatever that might be, some other sort of special interest in some way. Okay. So leaders, even though they're servants, leaders should lead. They should be in charge. I elected this person to be my senator, not this representative of Nestle. Anybody know why I picked Nestle as a...
It's a big cocoa company.
You know what Nestle is, right? The chocolate you guys made rich on Halloween, chocolate company. Why did I pick on Nestle? Anybody know anything about Nestle? Believe it or not, Nestle is arguably one of the most evil corporations on the face of the earth. What they do to the places that their factories are at, what they do to the local communities, they changed Michigan law, again by bribing people, to steal fresh water for their factories from the Great Lakes. And it's just read about it. It's just an absolute disaster. And nobody can do anything about it because those laws are made. I don't know if they can't do anything about it, but nobody is doing anything about it. Read about Nestle. Okay. But the people of Michigan should say, I voted for this person to be in charge, not Nestle. Who voted them in charge? No. Pick any like big company you want, something like that's going on. Pick any government you want, something like that's going on. Any organization you want. Okay. Now, I'm assuming democracy here. I elected this person, but democracy is not the only way to be, for a government to work. Within the church, you guys don't get to elect squat. You don't get to choose your bishop. You don't get to choose which priest is at your parish. Sure, that's fine. However, at least theoretically, the person who is chosen to be bishop is supposed to be chosen for his good qualities. I actually like our bishop. I get along with him really well. So he has good qualities. And hopefully he rules according to the wishes of the church and the wishes of Christ. But that doesn't always happen. Same thing would go for priests. So it's not always like I elected you. No matter what, no matter who put you in charge, you're in charge, which means you're responsible for this. And if you're responsible, it means you have to be the leader. You can't let somebody else do your job and make your decisions for you. Does that all make sense? When you do that, you're not being a servant. You're failing to be a leader. And those are two different things. And so it's really funny that it ends up meaning the same thing. What Jesus means when he says, he who is greatest among you should be your servant, should be your servant, not anybody else's. The person who's leading should care for that community, not just for some rich guy who's lining his pockets. You following that? So it's funny that they sound contradictory, but I think they end up meaning exactly the same thing. Good? Okay. And another insightful thing, whose king is a lackey, and your princes dine in the morning. What might it mean to have dinner in the morning? I actually like having breakfast at night, but, like breakfast foods. You ever have eggs for dinner? It's the best. Oh, man. I had that last night. I had 4 eggs.
4 eggs.
I was still hungry. What does it mean to have dinner in the morning? Well, I think it just has to do with, like, you live a lavish lifestyle. So your princes, the people that are supposed to be concerned with kind of ruling and taking care of you, what they're concerned about is, I want dinner for every meal of the day, even for breakfast. Whereas maybe in his time, breakfast would have been seen as kind of a simple meal, and dinner would have been seen as a little bit more fancy. No, the guy's having steak for breakfast. And that actually sounds pretty good too, right? But that's what their concern is. And because that's what they want and that's what they care about, they're sort of soft. And in order to be a good leader, you sort of have to be a little bit disciplined, and you have to be a little bit tough. You have to be willing to make some sacrifices. And these princes that are having dinner in the morning aren't willing to make sacrifices. They're not even willing to live like their subjects live. You know? How many, like, can you name a politician that lives like the people that he's in charge of? I can't even imagine one. You know? In the law of the church, it actually says somewhere, I don't know if I can find it, but it says somewhere in the law of the church that a parish priest should live not too lavishly and not too poor. He should live sort of where his parishioners are at, an average of his parishioners. You know? Okay, that's cool. It's a nice goal to go for. I know there are some exceptions to that, unfortunately, but at least it's a rule that's sort of written in the church, that the priest shouldn't be super rich. He also shouldn't be like barefoot and everybody else is super. That's kind of like messed up. You know what I mean? You got to take care of the priest, but he also shouldn't be, you know, pulling in with a Lamborghini. You ever see me with a Lamborghini? Call me out. You know, I'll ignore you, but you know.
I just wanted to say that if you ever see a priest, I don't know in Chaldean church, but if you ever know a priest that has been a missionary, you will find a very different attitude.
They're loaded.
Lifestyle and.
Oh yeah, missionaries get rich.
No,
I'm just kidding.
No. I'm talking about real missionaries.
I know some missionaries. Yeah,
poor places,
they do some beautiful stuff. Yeah,
they live like the people, eat like the people. You know, etc.
Some of them do. However, my brother has spent a lot of time in Haiti helping orphans, and he knows some of the missionary work that's done there, and some of it is they don't do that. It's shady. They're scraping off the top. They're lining their pockets. They're not living like the people that they're serving. You know. So yeah. Happy are you, land whose king is a noble, and your princes dine in fit time, in manliness, not in drunkenness. I love this. What is a happy land? A happy land is one where, I'm on verse 17, whose king is a noble. What does it mean to be a noble? A very interesting interpretation of what it is to be noble here. A noble doesn't mean fancier than everybody else. A noble means you have a noble heart. And what you care about is a thing that's worth caring about, not just yourself. To be noble actually means to be virtuous and to care about others. Okay. And if the king is virtuous, that land is happy. And your princes dine in fit time. You have dinner at dinner time, not all day long. Again, I'm thinking of the rich man and Lazarus, the parable of Christ. Okay. And then this last phrase is fantastic. How do they live? In manliness, not in drunkenness. What is manliness? I don't think he's disparaging women here. What is this sort of the virtue here? You're tough. You're not like, again, I guess it's a little bit sexist, like it's assuming that women are soft or whatever. But what's the virtue that he's getting at here? Leaders should be the tough ones. They shouldn't be the ones that need a red carpet in front of them all the time. And that has to be the right kind of limousine. And if I go to my room and all the green M&Ms aren't taken out, I'm going to throw a hissy fit. You know, there's like celebrities that used to do that. If they do a show and then the backstage room, I forgot who it was I was reading about. They demanded M&Ms and somebody had to go and take all the green ones out because they didn't like the green ones. Do you remember who was I talking? Who was that? No, it wasn't a movie. It was an actual person.
No,
yeah.
It was. I remember reading that too. And I don't remember.
Yeah, whatever. It was one of the Beatles or something. I don't know, whatever it was. But that's how he wants leaders not to be. And he's saying, you're just being kind of a loser. Like you're a sissy, you know? And if you're manly, quote unquote, and we can apply this to women, so you can sort of abstract this from the male-female thing. What does it mean to sort of be a virtuous? It means to kind of be a little bit tough. And if there's some green M&Ms, okay, deal with it. It's not the end of the world, you know?
Van Halen.
What is it?
It says, I guess it was Van Halen.
Oh, Van Halen?
Van Halen.
Yes, that's who it was.
Oh, yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
Okay.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I just found it too.
He's a fool.
Eddie Van Halen, huh?
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, so he's saying rulers at least should not be like this. They shouldn't be spoiled brats, in other words. Okay? Snowflake, I guess that's the word we use today. You know? Yeah, you shouldn't be a snowflake. Don't whine. Don't be a whiner. Don't feel sorry for yourself. If you want to be a leader and like one day your dinner is not as good as you would want it to be, grow up. It's fine. Deal with it. Okay? Through sloth, the roof beam sags, and through slack hands, the house leaks. So if you're a lazy ruler, the house that you're in charge of is going to start to fall apart. Not because anybody came and damaged it, but because leading means you have to do a lot of work. And when you don't do your work, things are going to start falling apart. Nothing has to happen. No external thing has to come in. If you don't maintain the house, it's like dust. Dust just comes out of nowhere. I mean, it doesn't come out of nowhere, but you know, it seems like it comes out of nowhere. Nothing has to happen for the house to be full of dust. You just have to wait. You just have to be lazy, and then the house is going to be covered in dust. Okay? You should see my room. Okay? I don't even know how I'm still alive. Okay? It's my own what?
It's dust is usually just
Your own skin cells.
yeah. It's
Yeah, that's gross. For food is set out for merriment, and wine that gladdens the living, and money keeps everyone busy. Let me see what that could mean. For food is set out for merriment, and wine that gladdens the living, and money keeps everyone busy. Maybe he's kind of saying that's kind of a good thing, because he just said sloth makes the roof beam sag, and slack hands the house leaks. So like, well, if people need money, they're going to work, and things are going to kind of get better that way, be maintained that way. Maybe there is. I mean, I even wrote this on the board at some point. Not even during this Bible study. It was like when I was talking about Genesis. Somehow I wrote the different regimes. Oh, what is it again? Different regimes in Plato. You have aristocracy, timocracy, oligarchy, and democracy. Is right at the bottom, the worst one, right? So democracy is where doing whatever you want is the thing that motivates you. An oligarchy is where money is in charge. A timocracy is where honor is in charge. And then the aristocracy is where virtue is in charge, right? So Plato kind of ranks them like this. Maybe this point here is, again, democracy doesn't have to do with voting here in Plato. It just has to do with like giving into all your desires all the time. Okay, and then tyranny is down here. And so he says, well, democracy is better than tyranny, but oligarchy, the rule of money, it's not at all the best, but it's better than just doing whatever you want. So, and these are ways to describe a soul. These are types of soul for Plato. So the guy that's motivated by money, he at least works hard. Whereas the guy that's motivated just by doing whatever he feels like all the time, he's just lazy and just, that's worse. That's a worse state of the soul. However, it's not the best. Being motivated by money, even though it's better, and that's, I think, what's going on here, money keeps everyone busy, this is better. Doing things out of honor is better than doing things for money. And doing things just because they're the right thing to do is even better than that. That's kind of what Plato's getting at. All right.
Is there a place for republic?
This is the Republic. Plato's Republic is described as an aristocracy. Yeah. In fact, this isn't even his word. He just says this is the true regime. Okay, so next topic. Even on your couch, Do not revile a king, and in your sleeping chambers revile not a rich man. For the fowl of the heavens will carry the sound, and the winged thing will tell the word. Well, that's how he ends the chapter. Interesting. A little early today. A little bit. What do you think this means? Even on your couch, do not revile a king. Don't gossip. Even in your own house. Why? For the fowl of the heavens will carry the sound, and the winged thing will tell the word. Don't gossip because somebody's going to hear it. Okay. Especially about the king. It's sort of like, how Google's recording everything you say. Love you, government. You guys are the best. God bless America. So yeah, again, it's very pragmatic advice. It's not saying don't gossip because it's an evil before God and you'll be no. Don't gossip because they're going to hear about it and then you're going to be in trouble. Last little thing about rulership. These new Pixel phones, the Pixel 6 just came out. It's pretty awesome, but it's pretty creepy. You can turn on this setting, and if you're just like walking through the store, and then like 5 hours later, you're like, oh man, what was that song I heard in the store? You can go in your phone and it like notes, it can tell what the song is, and it'll make at this time of the day, this was the song that was playing around my, yeah. I'm turning that thing on. I don't know, what do I have to hide? Okay, now Google knows that I went to Rite Aid. Big deal. I bought some chips. And a bottle of Buffalo Trace.
A bottle of what?
It's a bourbon.
Oh, okay.
It's a very good, inexpensive bourbon. Yeah. It's a very good, inexpensive bourbon.
Very good.
Yeah. Inexpensive, like $20 a bottle, $25 if it's on sale. So now you guys all know this. And everybody watching at home knows this.
Wow, is that your breakfast?
Woe to the... Your priest dines in the morning. Dines. Drinking my dinner. I've heard of drinking your dinner. I've never heard of drinking your breakfast. Bad idea. That's a terrible day. I'm not going to ask you guys if you do it. You know people day drink? How the hell do people do that?
What do you mean day drink?
They just wake up and they're just like, oh yeah, it's just like, I'm just going to day drink today. Like they have a day off and they're just like drinking.
Drink all day?
Like the 4th of July and they just drink all day. I can't do it. If the sun is out, don't bring a beer near me. I don't want to see it. It's just gross to me. It's just me.
The construction workers, when they drink beer
Yeah.
at work.
Oh gosh, yeah.
They used to do
That's
that.
terrible, yeah. Construction workers drink beer at work and then they get behind this gigantic machine. Bad idea. Whatever. Maybe if it's a beer, it's fine. What am I talking about? I don't drink that much, I promise.
You
really
didn't
don't.
drink before this class, right?
What is it?
You didn't drink before?
I did not.
Okay, good.
I will sometimes drink before my philosophy classes, though. Like a half a beer, just to get me through the pain. The next two chapters are so short. 11 and 12, and then we're done. Maybe I'll do them in 1 week. And then you'll never see me again.
Oh, that's not good.
I know, isn't that great?
No.
I mean, God, they're both really short. I don't know what to do.
Thanksgiving's coming up, so.
No, but we have 2 weeks until then. I need to fill up the time.
I can tell you what annoyed me at work.
What annoyed you at work today?
No, I don't.
You're retired?
But when I worked,
Okay.
I was the only person that had another person in my office. And this person continually chewed on rubber bands.
Ew.
On rubber bands?
All day long.
How's that not poisonous?
All day.
Chewed on rubber band.
All
No,
day.
honestly, I'll take that. That ice is worse. Ice is worse than
So
rubber
I
bands.
finally came in and I said to him, cannot take this anymore. Here is a pack of gum. Do not chew rubber bands.
That's a very noble way to deal with it. I would have been much more violent. Okay, listen, if you want to keep going for 2 weeks, you got to give me something to talk about because I might finish all of it next week. Or maybe I'll take next week off.
I have a question.
I don't care.
You can ask
Let's settle this first. Should I just finish it next week or in 2 weeks? Should I take next week off?
Do you wanna take next week off?
Kinda.
Then do it.
I don't want to, but I don't. Not if you guys don't want to.
It's okay.
Let me see what next week is. It's actually my friend's birthday.
Good job.
Okay. I will let you know. I'll do my stupid announcement. Does everybody follow me on Facebook or Instagram? You don't.
No,
Friend me on Facebook or Instagram, just so you know.
any of that.
What's your handle?
On Instagram, it is. What is my Instagram? Oh, at Yonan3000. Oh, no, I have to accept you on private on Instagram. Crap. Okay, request me. I'll figure it out. I'll think about it. Anyway, I'll post it on Instagram and Facebook. I usually just write on a piece of paper and just post the picture. So I'll announce sometime next week when I've decided. Okay. For sure, we'll have it in 2 weeks. And for sure, I'll finish in 2 weeks. Either I'll do 1 week at a time or I'll just do both chapters in 2 weeks. I'll let you know by next week. Okay. Okay, other topics. What do you want to...
So how am I gonna know? Are you gonna know?
You have to, yeah, your friend has to tell you.
Yeah, I consider that all gossip columns.
You know what else is gossip columns? News.
I don't listen to that either.
Good.
It's just crap.
Oh, you're all requesting me now? Dang it. Do you know how many follow requests I have on Instagram? I have exactly 200 that have just been sitting there
Oh, is that all?
for God knows how long. Look how popular I am.
Have
Edna,
it on private?
Edna, I'm not going to, no, I'm deleting you.
I'd like you
I'm just kidding.
to explain this
Just
whole
knock on your
thing
door
on Hippocrates or whatever this was you went through with Aristophanes, timography, oligarchy, whatever.
You want me to talk about Greek philosophy?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I would like to hear that.
You can't afford that. I got paid good money to teach philosophy. Yeah.
I don't know if this was in your book,
Mhm.
but the fine-tuning principle about the origins.
Oh, I can talk about some of that stuff. Yeah. Who's Athena? Oh, is that somebody watching at home? Somebody watching at home. I can do some philosophy and theology stuff if you want.
I want you to talk about this particular saint. His name is, God, what is it?
Saint God.
No. He's somebody picked out of the basket.
Oh, okay.
You know, I'm not Chaldean, so.
Okay.
But he's
Those are good topics.
He's a patriarch.
Oh, Mar Abba the Great.
Yeah.
The great.
He's,
Yeah, I can talk about him.
Yeah, talk about him because I got him too.
that's one,
Yeah.
that one.
He's.
In your seminary. is
You know what?
after
Let me just talk about that now because we have about 5 minutes. Mar Abba the Great was a patriarch of the Church of the East, which is now has these 3 segments: the Chaldean Church, the Assyrian Church of the East, and the ancient Apostolic Assyrian Church of the East, I think maybe. But those were all one church during the 6th century. This guy was a Zoroastrian.
What did that mean?
That is a non-Judeo-Christian religion that was native to Persia. There are still Zoroastrians today, but that was the sort of original religion of Persia at the time. He converted to Christianity. He was a nobleman and educated and stuff like that. He became a monk. He read all kinds of stuff about the scriptures and the church fathers, and he traveled all over the world to Jerusalem and to Constantinople. He studied philosophy, which is one of the reasons I really like him. And he brought a lot of stuff back to what's now Iraq. He eventually got elected patriarch. He started reforming the church, which was in shambles at his time. He established catechetical schools at every diocese. He really helped order things. He wrote a lot of the things in our liturgy. He introduced Qadisha Alaha,
What's that?
which is Holy God, Holy Mighty One. You come to Mass, you know what that is.
Yeah, well, that's.
He is the one that brought that from the Greek world into our Mass. He did a lot of really great things. He was close to the West and the Western Church, and he was only patriarch for 12 years, and 7 of those years he was in prison, and he still accomplished a lot. So he's a guy that didn't feel sorry for himself. He just did what was right, and if life sucks, whatever, you know. So for those reasons, we named the seminary after him, and we made him a holy card out of him and stuff like that. So yeah, those are cool. So stuff like this, we can talk about some more saints maybe in a couple of weeks or whatever, whenever I have some free time. I can talk a little bit about fine tuning and stuff. Not right now. That's kind of a bigger story, but
No, Holy God, Holy Mighty One is one of the prayers in the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. So I found that exceedingly wonderful in the Mass that
it was in Mass way before it was in Divine Mercy.
I know, I understand that. That's why I'm telling you. It's just going through the history. Really.
It touches your heart.
Yeah, it does. It's amazing. And now that you say it came from like the 6th century, it's like wow.
My mom is convinced that Saint Faustina, if I ever make it to heaven, Saint Faustina is going to like slap me. Because like the Divine Mercy Chaplet, beautiful, great. I'm glad you guys pray it. It's kind of boring though. Is that
Not
bad?
Really, not if you do
It's
it
really
properly.
boring.
Meditation.
I know you're not gonna. You guys are gonna like. That's
You
fine.
gotta meditate on the Passion.
It's called the Rosary.
No.
It's called the Sorrowful Mysteries.
I need to.
We'll agree to disagree.
I need you to study the Divine Will. Are you ready?
I read the Bible.
No. Are you ready for that?
No.
Because I can give you that.
I don't. My mom has copies. She's watching this right now, and she's gonna yell at me tomorrow.
You will be a step farther than you ever thought.
I hope
You
so.
know the Divine Mercy is what
Stop. I'm not talking about this.
got into the rosary.
Rosary's better. Oh, you can't argue that, can you?
No.
Ha!
No.
I pray the Rosary every day.
They're both right.
Me also.
Rosary's better though. Okay, other questions. I have 3 minutes. Who has a 3-minute question?
But could you go into that in one of the weeks that you decide?
This stuff?
Yes.
No, I don't want to talk about this in Bible study.
Oh. Why not?
This is Republic 9, I think.
Because this is like what's threaded through this whole book.
Should I teach the Republic in Bible study? Somebody's gonna accuse me of being a pagan. Like, oh, you think Plato's God? You think the Republic is the Bible?
No.
I'm already in trouble for the Divine Mercy thing. No other topics? Nobody brought any snacks today. That's sad.
Exorcisms.
Exorcism. I don't know a lot about them. I know that's a real thing. It's weird and creepy and scary and Halloweeny.
How was he martyred then? They say he was a martyr, that saint. Oh,
Maraba?
the great.
No, I think he just died in prison. I don't think he was killed.
Okay, somebody said he was martyred.
Maybe.
Your other priest said he was martyred.
I might be wrong. I haven't read his story in a while. It's possible. He was possible. He
I
was.
don't know.
He was.
If he died in prison, wouldn't that be murder?
Maybe. I don't know.
Conditions for
Maybe he was martyred. I
They
just
had
forgot.
chains hanging on the picture.
Yeah. I designed that icon.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sweating. Any other questions? We're good? All right. Let's pray. In the name of the Father, and Son, and Holy Spirit. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. I'm sorry, Saint Faustina.
Refer to the souls of the deceased.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Jesus, we trust in you.